Welcome to Athens Politics Nerd. I've got an interview today with Jared Bailey, candidate for commission in District 5. And I actually got outside for it. I'm so used to Zoom that I found the whole outdoors experience to be very unsettling. What's with all the fresh air, birds singing, and cars going by? Anyway, Jared Bailey was an ACC commissioner from 2011 to 2018, and we talked about redistricting, affordable housing, and more. Enjoy. Thanks for being on the show, Jared.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
I was a little surprised to see that you had threw your name back in the hat for District 5 Commissioner. What made you decide to run this time?
Well, I've been considering it for all this time. I think that public service is very, very important, and you got to have the right people doing it. So there's going to be a change on the commission, and I think good citizens, people like me who have experience with government, need to step up and try and make the best of our mayor and commission that we have right now. I don't think it's been as productive as it could have been the past few years, but I wasn't in the seat, so I can't really cast any stones. But I'm basically stepping back in, throwing my hat in the ring because I think it's important and I know how to do it.
Do you care to elaborate on that? You don't think it's been as productive as it could have been?
Well, I haven't paid as much attention to it as I used to because I wasn't doing it myself, but it just seems like there was a lot of things that kind of went around and around and in the hopper, and not as much came out of them as was hoped for. And that happens with government. I will tell you that when I was a commissioner, the 8 years I was on the commission, not as much happened as I would like. The mayor had a very strong control over the agenda of what we voted on, what we worked on. And it was very difficult to get her to add something if you thought something was important. It had to be on her agenda. So we didn't get as much done either. But I just think that there needs to be some more people step up and come in now that things are changing. They're changing whether we like it or not. And having people who know what they're doing and are experienced will be helpful. There won't be the learning curve, for one thing.
I think I definitely disagree with your assessment there that not much has happened. Maybe we can talk more about that a little later. But let's go ahead and move on. I'm sure that you've heard that the ACC Democrats censured 3 commissioners, that's Hamby, Wright, and Thornton, over the new commission maps passed by the state legislature. Athens was severely gerrymandered in the plan, and ACC Democrats accused these 3 commissioners of knowingly enabling the Republican members of our state delegation to undermine ACC voters in our democracy. So do you agree with that assessment? Does Republican redistricting undermine democracy, and should these commissioners have been censured?
Well, you may not remember it, but in the first 2 years that I was on the commission, the Republican delegation did the same thing. They redistrict. They can do it every 10 years. It's in the Georgia Constitution.
Well, sure, they did the redistricting, but they didn't redistrict any commissioners out of office.
Oh, I know. Anyway, I went through it too. I didn't like it. They took away, for me, some of my strongest neighborhoods. I felt like it was an attempt to undermine what support I had and make me more vulnerable to not being reelected. But you're right, they didn't map me out of the district like they did these folks. Do I think it's right? Well, it's something that's written into the Georgia State Constitution, and we should work on changing that. But they have the power to do it. And what we have to do is just move forward from there.
Do you think the commissioners should have been censured?
You know, I don't know that there was enough reason to do that, but I don't know all the facts on it. I think it's kind of silly to censure local politicians who, for the most part, have been supportive of the Democratic Party and their causes. So it just seemed like a little bit of overkill to me, but I don't know all the facts.
Your opponent, Matt Pulver, or one of your opponents, called the new maps an attack by the state legislature. That he said that we were attacked. And then State Representative Spencer Fry called it a subversion of our democracy. Do you disagree with that? Or?
Well, I think it was business as usual for state politicians in Georgia, that they're trying to change the maps to give themselves advantage. It's a tool used in the battle. I don't know that it's an attack, but it's a tool used in the battle for seats.
Is it a tool that subverts our democracy, in your opinion?
Well, I don't know. Well, to answer that, I would say that I don't think it's a fair way to do it. So that is not a democratic way. I don't think the process that they use is really made to make voting more accessible and more even. I don't think that's the case. I think that they're trying to change them, or did change them, in order to give themselves an advantage in future elections. That's what they've done for years. It's
targeting people for removal is illegal. You can't, and of course that'd be difficult to prove that they did that, but I think we all know that that's what they're doing.
Well, yeah, I would guess that's what they're doing. That's what it looks like, but it was a strategic move. I am not a constitutional lawyer. I don't think it's the right way to do things, but they did it.
So you served as commissioner for 2 terms, from
Yes.
2011 to 2018.
Mm-hmm.
But then in 2018, you lost to Tim Denson by a pretty big margin. It was 27 points.
Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering what you thought accounted for that.
Well, the field was split into 3 folks. That always makes it more difficult. I think that having a Republican in there took away, not that I'm a Republican, but it took away some of the folks who have voted for me, because I'm, I don't know, a reasonable, rational person who's been working to help the community for 45 years.
And you're talking about Danielle Benson, who is
Yes,
a Republican.
yes. And, to be honest, I think that Tim and his supporters just worked harder than I did. And that's the reason. 3-way split and the amount of work put into it.
During a recent WUGA interview, you said this.
It's a difficult tightrope there to walk for the commission. Yeah, our business is not necessarily to provide affordable housing.
So I wanted to ask what you meant by that, and do you really not see any role for the local government in providing affordable housing?
Well, there absolutely is a role, Chris, and we do it by working with housing agencies and organizations, with nonprofit and semi-governmental agencies. We work with them and support them. It's one of the ways we do it. And then when votes on land use come in, that's when we make decisions. We, being the mayor and commission, make decisions on how that land should be used. And there should always be a thought in the minds of the people making these decisions that we need to have affordable housing. But going out and creating affordable housing is not necessarily our job. We work with these organizations. We make votes on this parcel is going to be put together like this, and we either approve it or deny it. So we're not actively creating affordable housing. It's a very difficult task trying to make those decisions on land use, but that's what we do. We make decisions on land use, and we make decisions on our budget, on how much money we give to organizations, and we make decisions on policies which organizations we're going to support and work with. That's what we do. That's what the county commission does at the local level. They're not actually creating affordable housing.
But I mean, they are with things like the the redevelopment of Bethel, Midtown Village. So they are actually creating affordable housing in that area at least. And then, what do you think about the inclusionary zoning policy? I think they're going to vote on it at this next meeting. Do you support inclusionary zoning to encourage developers to build more affordable units?
Well,
Do you think that would work?
I'm not sure if that is the best way to do it because I'm not as familiar with the actual wording of what they want to do. But I do think that, yes, there needs to be ways for the government to ensure that developers include some affordable housing in their developments. I absolutely agree with that. I'm just not sure about the particular the legislation they're trying to pass right now.
Okay. So it sounds like you're saying that there is a role.
Well, there is a role. There already is a role. It's just not stated per se. As I said before, we make decisions on what organizations we give money to, what organizations we work with, and how we what land use policies we have. It's kind of unsaid, I guess, that maybe it needs to be said, but it's kind of unsaid that you need to consider all the citizens with this future land use. So that's citizens who need affordable housing, citizens who don't need affordable housing, citizens who want green space, citizens who don't care about that. I mean, you've got to consider all those roles and try and make the best decisions for the community. So I don't think there's a policy actually in place about inclusionary zoning, and maybe we should have it. I don't know.
Over the past 4 years, the mayor and commission have enacted a progressive agenda, as we've all seen, including things like fare-free bus service and a police oversight committee.
I'm going to jump in here to name a few more things the mayor and commission have accomplished in the past 3 years of progressive leadership. I'll read from my article that will be published soon in the flagpole. Over the past 3 years, the mayor and commission have begun planning to reach 100% clean energy, created an alternative to policing, started a public safety oversight board, established programs to prevent evictions and to help those experiencing homelessness, reduced fares on Athens Transit to zero, adopted a new green building code for ACC buildings, created a new Office of Equity and Inclusion, removed the Confederate monument from downtown, established a comprehensive anti-discrimination ordinance, and made the first official act of reparations in Georgia. Okay, back to the interview.
And one of your opponents, Matt Pulver, has promised to continue Commissioner Denson's legacy if he's elected. He said he wants to, quote, stay the course.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you would say the same, or if you would like to see the commission head in a different direction.
Well, I'd like to be on the commission and continue in the vein that I was working in, which I thought was a pretty balanced way, without an agenda of one certain organization, on my checklist. I was just trying to make decisions for citizens as best I could, based on the knowledge, the information brought to me. So I don't necessarily feel like we need to stay the course of one commissioner or the other. I think I need to go in there and fight for the things that I believe in and continue to be the kind of commissioner I was and still want to be.
Okay, so I guess I'm hearing that you're not specifically running to continue the progressive path that has been
No, I'm a
laid
progressive. There's no doubt I'm a progressive. Do I hold all the same exact priorities that the previous commissioner had? No. But that doesn't mean I don't think some of them are good.
Okay.
But my job, I'm not running against Tim Denson. You know, I'm running against Matt Pulver and Dexter Fisher, and I'm the one that's got 8 years of experience doing it. So I like to think I know what I'm doing.
Okay. Do you generally agree with the progressive path that has sort of been laid out by Mayor Gertz and the commission, the new commission?
I would definitely call myself a progressive. But progressive, the root word is progress. And I don't think there's been enough progress. And I know you disagree because you already disagreed with me once about this. But, progressive means someone who makes progress. And I think we could make more progress without having one organization's agenda as our only purview.
What organization are you referring to? I'm a little confused.
Well, I mean, there was an organization in town, no longer exists apparently, that made it sound like it was the only progressive organization in Athens, and the people who were involved with that were the only progressive people in the world. But they don't exist anymore, so it doesn't matter. The point is that I am a progressive, but I don't have a checklist that says this is what I'm shooting for. I do have some areas that I think are important, and they're listed as my platform. They're very similar to the platform I had before. You can go through with an agenda as a commissioner, and we all should have goals. But, every vote is a little different circumstances. You don't know what sort of motivations people have for doing them. You don't know what the real needs are of the community until you get all that information. And each vote is a little different. So you have to look at the situation and glean as much information as you can, and then make a rational decision based on what you think is the best thing we can do, we being the county commission, we can do for our citizens with the budget we have and the policies that we have. What's the best we can do? It's not necessarily a checklist. It's having an overall progressive outlook and wanting things to move forward, but it's much more complex than people think. I wish to move forward as a thoughtful, progressive person and make the best things happen for the community possible, without an agenda of a former organization tattooed on my chest. It's just a joke, man.
In your 8 years as a commissioner, what is the thing that you're most proud of having accomplished?
Well, I worked hard to try and get electric buses, but we ended up with hybrid buses, which was a nice step, at least. I worked hard with transit on that, so that was progress. I was trying to convince the other commissioners and staff that we needed to do more with alternative sources of energy. And while I was on the commission, we did do some solar things. We did out at Cedar Creek, it was basically a solar farm. I was trying to get to where we'd have like solar panels on every public building and trying to move that forward. But there was some progress made there, and that's good. I would have to look back and think of it, but most of the things that I'm proudest of have to do with the environment and wise use of our resources.
And I guess my last question is, why should voters choose you over your opponents?
Well, I think I've already said it, that I'm the one with the experience. I've done it for 8 years. I already know what is involved. I've got a very strong knowledge of the community to begin with because I've been so involved with the community for decades. And I'm somebody that really fights for doing what's right for every citizen we can, trying to trying to be fair and utilize the resources we have for everybody.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks for listening. Soon, I'll interview the final candidate in the District 5 race. That's Dexter Fisher. He'll get his own episode, just like Jared Bailey and Nat Pulver did. For the rest of the races in the local election coming up, I'll combine interviews from all the candidates for each district together in one episode for easier listening. All right, have a great day, you guys. I'll see you on the next one.